The ability of the ionosphere to reflect high-frequency radio signals depends on the amount of solar radiation. Obvious. What happens to signals higher in frequency than the critical frequency? So if they're higher than the critical frequency, they go straight out, always go straight out, because the critical frequency is when it goes straight up, and actually not always, but it's the one going straight up. It goes vertically straight out. What does the maximum usable frequency mean? It's the highest frequency signal which will reach the intended destination. So it's the highest frequency that will cause that skip, that bounce. The optimum working frequency provides the best long-range HF communication compared to the maximum usable frequency. It is usually slightly lower. So the optimum working frequency is always lower than the MUF because beyond the MUF, the signal's going out into space. What causes tropospheric ducting of radio waves? A temperature inversion. Remember the picture with the hot layer and the signal bouncing off those changes in density. On which amateur frequency band is the extended distance propagation effect of sporadic key most observed? 6 meters would be the answer. That's where it happens to work best. Which emission mode is best for auroral propagation? CW, what kind? Oh, CW is the answer to that. I think the reason, so this is a strange one, but I think the reason is, and maybe I didn't mention this, is with some of this propagation, it becomes frequency selective. So you can't really send voice through it because you'd only get little bits of the speech. And so CW is a good method, by CW we mean Morse code, is a good method to use some of these more exotic propagation methods. What kind of unusual HF propagation allow weak signals from the skip zone to be heard occasionally? I didn't mention this one either. So we've got that region we call the skip zone, where the signal is going up into the ionosphere and coming down and can't come down any sooner because it's not bending enough. So the skip zone is that silent region. But if you've got something that's scattering the signal, you may get a backscatter coming back to the Earth. So that region that's normally silent, you can hear, you may be able to hear radio waves or radio signals which are caused by scatter. What characteristic of HF what is the characteristic of HF scatter signals? It's a rapid flutter or hollow sounding. Again, this idea of it's frequency selective. It sounds, if you listen to it, it sounds like somebody talking down a drain pipe because only certain frequencies are getting through and not the full spectrum. So speech is 3 kilohertz. Only some of those frequencies are getting through that process of scatter. So the same with auroral scatter. Okay, so I've got a few more things. So that was the end of the slides. I had, going back to this little chart thing, I was going to point out on our website under the student resources there are a lot of links, and I can send out these links, but there are some tools here on propagation. These first couple aren't very interesting. They're solar, if you like, the solar forecast. So you can look at those if you're interested. Of more interest is some of these where they provide tools for looking at things like maximum operating frequency. This is the VOA cap, which is the Voice of America. I'm not sure what the cap stands for, but it's a tool that allows you to make predictions. So I'll just launch this one because this one's quite interesting. So we've got a map of the Earth here. I think I can move that around. I've got my transmitter that I'm going to put over here, somewhere around Vancouver, and maybe I want to talk to somebody down in Brazil. And what this chart over here shows is time of day going around a circle, so 0, 1, 2, 3, these are hours, around 23 hours, and this is measured in UTC, which is, everyone uses UTC as the standard reference. And then the frequency up here, so these are bands, so 80, 60, 20, 15, 10. So if I wanted to communicate to somebody down in Brazil, this tells me this is the probability, and it suggests the highest probability would be on 17 meters at 0 Zulu, as we call it, 0 UTC, which would be 4 a.m. Is that right? 4 p.m. So 0 is at 0. Would be high. 0 in Europe would be 1600, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Right, okay. That sort of makes sense. Late afternoon, yeah. Because you want the ionization. It also shows here the which part is in daylight, which part is in night, and this thing called the grey line between day and night, which is seems to be an interesting area to propagate along. Yeah, so it's basically it shows that's under current conditions that is not hugely likely. If I come down to say try and look at Toronto, there's a very good probability in communicating with Toronto, 100% on 15 meters. That surprises me. Or 30 meters over here, slightly earlier in the day. So that's a useful propagation tool. What else have we got here? This is an interesting one for VHF. And this is based on what we call spotting. This is live, by the way. These are current conditions. So this is dependent on people who have reported making contacts in these regions, and it doesn't look particularly good right now. So if you click on one of these, this is V7RNA. Gosh, I don't know what it is. It's not doing what it did the other day. Okay. These are all the contacts that person's made. There's a little sort of spider diagram I saw the other day. Can't get it up now. But you can see where all the contacts were. So this is somebody over here, and he's made contacts with people all around here. So we know that that is a region of propagation up to 50 kilometers. What we're looking for are the yellow, orange, and especially red that shows more distance propagation. So down here in San Francisco, for instance, there seems to be good VHF propagation. Up here, this looks like reasonably good, but it's not fantastic. I've seen much better than this. So most of the time in VHF, you're going to be just operating locally. This could be tropospheric scattering, tropospheric ducting. it could, under some circumstances, you could have sporadic propagation. But this doesn't look particularly good right now, for us anyway. But that's a VHF propagation chart. This is a forecast, and that's probably all I wanted to show out of these. So you can play with these. Another one I wanted to show was the VOA crop. This is a program. So you've got VOA Cap, which is the web-based one. This is one that's running on the computer, and it's a propagation tool. So you can see here, I can plug in a date, because this is based on a huge history over years of data that's been collected by the US government in working out Voice of America propagation. So I can do something like pick the band, like I like 20 meters a lot, and it's showing roughly, I think these are possibly beacons or stations that would be visible to me. I can set the date and the time, and I can look at what it would be like sometime in the future. I can usually what I would do is pull in the solar data, because right now this is just based on average conditions for February the 19th. But if I pull in the solar data, then I've got the actual conditions based on the sunspot number today, and it's now uploaded. So these are now actual conditions, and I can turn on the contours. So these are the signal strength contours. So you can see on 20 meters. Now this is assuming there's a little control here, which is the amount of power, and this is assuming I'm using 4 kilowatts with a beam, which is pretty excessive. More likely, I'm going to be running somewhere medium. What does this say? That's 100 watts into a dipole. So if I had 100 watts into a dipole, that's roughly the coverage that I would be getting right now on 20 meters. If I go, let's try 21 meters. Now that's starting to show some interesting skip effects. So I'm actually surprised 15 is open, but you can see now, I mean, these are pretty weak signals. These are S1. But you can see there's a skip region here. Actually, there's the first skip, because that's where we are. So there's the first skip before the radio wave comes back to the Earth here, and then there's a second skip, so the another skip zone here, and you see out here these sort of layers of skip. So it sort of goes going out this way. You can go up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, as it bounces multiple times off the ionosphere. So we can look. I think this will allow us to place a point on it, and then we can look at a chart, which is the same chart we saw before, showing the probability. Actually, this is the probability of being able to communicate, but this is the signal strength at different times of day on different frequencies. So it's right now not very good. And there's little chance of getting into Europe these days, at least on this band. Let's go back to 20 meters. You might just, again, this is with 100 watts with a dipole, you might just make Europe at S1, which is not really usable, maybe on CW. 40 meters is another band, that's pretty dead. So based on this, I'd say conditions are pretty bad right now. We probably make some good contacts across North America, and that's about all.